red, handmade, painted, straight to my doorstep, came from Las Vegas. Rooster Rum's the only brand that got more flavors. I ain't jaded cause I gotta rock more stages. There's more to this life than 9 to 5 slave, and I don't wanna stay dangerous cause this shit is contagious. My attitude is everything, it makes these vibrations. They say it takes time.
So you are ready to journey with magic mushrooms. I am here to help you prepare for your trip so that you can have the best experience of your life. I do not promote or encourage the use of psychedelics or any other drugs. This video is for educational purposes only. Please do your own research. Don't come at me. All right, this is just me sharing my experience and some things that I've learned from research as well. I personally have a lot of experience journeying with psilocybin. If you know, you know, I've been sharing videos about my raw experiences for quite a few years now. So if you're interested in that, make sure to check out my old videos on my ego death experience, which is kind of cringy now that I look at it, but it happens, you know? All right, so how to prepare for your magic mushroom trip. If this is your first experience ever, congratulations for, I don't know, feeling the call. I feel like if you're ready, you should feel ready when you feel the call for them. Like, you will know, you will feel called. It might be that they're on your mind a lot lately, or they've been on your mind for a few years, or you keep hearing them or seeing them wherever you go. Like, it might be time for you to journey with them, but it's only if you really feel ready. Again, I'm not here to encourage you, and only you know if you're ready for it. Now, if you've already had an experience with them, but maybe you want to have a different experience and feel more prepared, or maybe have a better experience with them, then that's great too. These tips will be very helpful. Although these tips also apply to microdosing, if you are going to microdose either consistently or just try it out, you can also use these tips, though these are more so for a larger dose and taking like a full-on journey with psychedelics. And this is going to vary from person to person because we're all affected by them differently. Some of us may need more in order to feel that breakthrough, or really feel them take you to another dimension. And some of us maybe need a smaller dosage. So this varies from person to person. I would say anything above 3 grams is what I would consider like a full-on trip. 5 grams, I believe it's what's known as like a heroic dose. If you take 5 grams, like, you're most likely going to get blasted out of here. Like, you will definitely trip is what I'm saying. Now, I've heard people consume 3 grams, 3.5, maybe even 4 is a lot, but like 3.5, and say that they don't experience anything. This might be because you need it more, you know, it's dependent on you. Maybe you need to consider other factors, like maybe you're taking medications that you shouldn't be taking psilocybin if you are. Perhaps they were just not good, like whoever the supplier was, they might not be high quality, or there's other reasons, like you weren't meant to experience that. I truly believe that magic mushrooms will take you on the journey that you need to, and that you will experience what you need to. Like, they will guide you through what is necessary for you and your growth. The most important thing to prepare for your trip is your mindset. Honestly, your mindset is really huge. Like, you should not be consuming this psychedelic if you're in a bad place, like mentally. Like, if you are, it's kind of hard to explain because, you know, if you are experiencing like depression or anxiety or PTSD, then I would say that they can really help you, of course, but obviously that could be seen as you being in a wrong place mentally. What I mean by not being in the right mindset is, like, if you're having, let's say, like suicidal thoughts or like severe depressing thoughts that are just like super negative, like I don't recommend that you take a journey with them, honestly. Like, you have to be in a good place to be able to set the intention, to receive, right? To be open and to receive. Because otherwise you're gonna face some things, like you're gonna have a really hard trip. Like in the past, you know, my video where I shared my ego death experience, I shared the experience of how I literally died. I died on mushrooms, and back then I saw that as like the most horrific experience of my life, and I was like, man, that was horrible, like that was a bad trip, like all on and on and on, right? Now I realize that there's no such thing as a bad trip. You know what I mean? It is, at the end of the day, just an experience. You will have what's called a bad trip, as in an ego death, if that's the mentality that you've been carrying. I experienced that because I was not in a good place, and I kind of went into the trip knowing that, like, I wasn't in a good place in my life. Although now I see that's what I needed to face. I needed to face my ego and face these lower vibrations and fear and death. And you know, if you are not open and submissive to the medicine, you're really gonna struggle. Like, this is something that I've really come to realize recently, is that the more submissive and the more you let go and you're open to just receiving what the medicine is here to guide you through, then you're going to have a better experience, as opposed to someone who's like resisting, like, oh no, like I don't want to feel this, I don't want to go through this, I don't want to feel what's happening right now. You're most likely you're going to have a bad trip. So that's my first tip, is to go in with a good mindset. Just have a good mindset. Do them when you are in the space to really consume them. My second tip is to set the vibe, set your environment. Some people really recommend consuming mushrooms out in nature, and I can see why. I definitely can, because you will feel like one with everything, with beautiful Mama Earth, and I'm sure that you'll have eye-opening experiences that are just going to be out of this universe, like connecting with the earth. Like, even if you're like, especially if you're grounding yourself, you know, barefoot or laying down on earth and feeling Mama Earth, I'm sure you're going to receive so many messages and a beautiful, like in sync, feeling like one kind of experience. I will say you can also experience this inside though, like inside the comfort of your home, for example. By setting the vibe, I quite literally mean like set the vibe. Like, when I used to journey with them, now I don't do it as often, like huge doses. In the past, I would literally set the vibe, like intentionally set up lights, like beautiful lights, like a fluffy rug, a comfy blanket, some water, make sure the space is really clean. Now that I have a beautiful space of my own, it's definitely necessary. Like, even cleansing the space is a huge one. Get some sage, some palo santo, maybe some other herbal bundles if you want to burn them around your house. Cleanse the space, like for real, cleanse the space, because you're working with energy. Like, when you're on a trip, you will feel it, that everything is energy and you are energy. So you want to cleanse your space, right? You want to set the vibe. Maybe light up a candle and incense. Make sure your house is clean. Have a warm blanket, have some water. I would say snacks, but honestly, you don't really need snacks. Maybe prepare your home with like vibrant fruit. Stock up your fridge with some fruit, because most likely after your trip or like the day after, you're really going to be craving something fresh, something healthy, something vibrant. Getting ready for a trip, like think of it as literally getting ready for a trip. I would say you need to block off your schedule for that whole day and the day after. It's worth it, it's necessary. it will all make sense after your trip. You're gonna be like, wow, yeah, I needed this. Because first of all, a trip usually lasts from like 6 to 8 hours. So you already need that 6 to 8 hours to trip. Like, let's say you do it in the evening, most likely you'll be tripping throughout the night. You probably won't sleep, then you'll still feel the effects of it after. You're not going to want to clock in and go to work or have responsibilities. So I highly encourage you to take 2 days off, the day off of tripping and the next day, so that you can integrate and you can really sit with what you experienced and what you experienced, like straight up. So set the vibe. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just make sure that your space is clean. My other tip is to create a safe and comfy environment. This is pretty similar to the last tip that I just shared, but again, just make sure that it's comfortable. You have some blankets. Make sure that you are dressed in something comfortable, like really, really comfy. For real. Like, you don't want to be uncomfortable when you're tripping. You don't want to have to worry about changing outfits when you're in the middle of your trip. You want to be comfortable, the comfiest that you can be. No makeup. I mean, you can wear makeup if you want, but you get what I'm saying? Just be comfortable. The other tip is to consume the magic on an empty stomach. This is not necessary. This is not like ayahuasca. If you have experienced ayahuasca and sat with her, you know that it's necessary for you to cleanse your body at least the day of, like fast the day of, or the week of, have like a cleaner diet, or a month before, depends how serious you're taking it. That's necessary. But with mushrooms, it's not necessary, but now I can see the importance of fasting for that day, because, or at least for a few hours before your trip. Magic mushrooms can cause you to feel very nauseous, and this is dependent on everyone. Again, it varies person to person. Personally, I'm very sensitive to them. Like, I will definitely puke. I will definitely puke. And now the way that I see that actually is as a cleanse. As a purge. I am releasing from my body. The mushrooms want me to release something energetically from my body. So it's not always bad if you puke, but just know that you could do things and prepare in advance so that you don't have to experience that. One of the ways to do that is by fasting, either the day that you take the trip, or even the day before. You could do like a fruit fast, just consume fruits, and then the next day maybe just water or some herbal teas. Like, it's going to be so worth it. Not only are you going to feel better during your trip, it's also going to be much heavier, which is a good thing. You want to feel the full effects of the mushrooms. If you consume them on an empty stomach, as opposed to having a full-on meal and having them right after, you're going to feel them much more on an empty stomach. Don't forget to drink water. Stay very, very hydrated before your trip and even during your trip. Another tip is to have an intention. Having an intention is really going to prepare you for your trip, because you're putting your mind into that state. And also be grateful. Be very, very grateful for the journey that you are about to embark in. If you are completely new to this, just trust me on this. Like, believe me, everything is energy. And when you take a moment, you can even talk to your mushrooms, I've said this before, to appreciate what you have and what you're about to consume and put into your body and what you are about to receive. It's going to change your trip. It's going to be very beautiful. Give gratitude for the medicine. Set your intention. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. If you don't have an intention for your trip, then make it very simple. Like, I am so grateful for these magic mushrooms. I'm so grateful for the medicine. Thank you, Mama Earth. I am open to receiving what I need. Thank you for guiding me in my healing journey. It could be that simple, you know? Or you could be more specific, like, thank you so much for allowing me to connect with my higher self. I am so grateful for connecting with my purpose. Something like that, you know? Have an intention. Even better if you write it down. It's going to really allow you to prepare for what you're going to embark in. With that being said, don't have expectations. Do not have expectations for your trip, because you never know what trip they're going to take you on. Every single trip is going to be different from you. They're all different. And you just never know what the mushrooms need to bring to the surface for you to feel and for you to acknowledge. For you to feel and for you to process and for you to work through. So do not have expectations, be open to receiving, be grateful. Another thing that you can do to prepare is create a playlist. It can be very simple, or maybe just have some tunes ready, like some frequencies, some solfeggio frequencies, some binaural beats, some lo-fi, something calm to your nervous system, or maybe have a playlist of your favorite music, something that you love, songs that you love, or you can even tap into Roots to Realms. We do share some playlists that I feel like are very psychedelic, like they could really trigger your trip. And that's the thing, you have to realize that whatever you're listening to is going to impact your trip. Whoever you are with is going to impact your trip. Remember that everything and everyone is energy. So my last tip I have for you is to have a guide. If this is your first time, I highly recommend that you have a guide. Please have a guide. This could be your best friend, your partner, someone that you really love, and someone that you really trust. The reason for that is because you're most likely going to be very open and vulnerable, and you're going to experience things that you didn't even know. Some things might come to the surface that you weren't expecting, and you're going to feel it all. You might cry, you might laugh. You're going to expose yourself pretty much. So you want to be in your safe, comfy environment with someone that you trust. And if anything happens, like if you have a bad trip, that person is supposed to guide you. You don't want them to have bad energy, and hopefully they are someone who does have experience with psychedelics or who have tripped, or someone who with a higher consciousness, you know what I mean? Someone who's aware of what they are doing, who's not going to freak out. Who's not going to freak out if something happens, because if you're tripping and you're tripping balls, they have no idea what you're experiencing like at all. So you don't want to freak them out, because then if they start freaking out, they're going to freak you out even more. You get what I'm saying? So you want someone who's going to be there as support. I want to emphasize the importance of having a guide, because when you're in these mind-altering states, you could be so gone, like beyond, like you won't be here on this 3D realm where you could see this plant or the color of my dress. Like you won't be aware, I mean you might be aware to some extent of this physical reality. You might be so gone that you might do crazy shit. Like you might run around your street, or you might, speaking from experience, I remember one time I felt like I was going to walk off the balcony, like straight up. And I told my friend, I was like, I need you to not allow me to go outside, because it feels like I could just like start running outside kind of thing, you know what I mean? Anything can happen, you can get run over, you know? So it's really, really, really important that you have a guide. You never know where this medicine is going to take you. You could literally enter a state of psychosis, you could freak out. And that's really important as well. Before you take a trip, you really need to have awareness of your state of being. If you're someone who like has family members or runs in your family where they suffer from schizophrenia or mental disorders like that, like I don't know if you should take psychedelics, because they can lead you to a state of psychosis, and that is really scary. So again, it's really important to have a guide. So those are the best tips that I have to help you prepare for your magic mushroom trip. And don't forget to drink a lot of water, stay hydrated, like for real, do some breath work. And remember that when you are in your trip and you're tripping balls, if it's too much for you or you're experiencing a lot like of feelings, emotions, or heavy sensations, because remember, your sensories, it's all going to be enhanced. If it's too much for you, always remember that your breath will bring you back. It could feel like you're dying, it could feel like your heart stopped and your breath stopped, but just know that your body is still functioning. Your body is so intelligent. It's still doing its bodily kind of functions that it's literally doing in this very moment. I'm breathing, my heart is beating, blood is pumping through me. You get what I'm saying? Like, remember that your breath will bring you back. What I mean by that is that just remember to breathe. It's going to bring you back to center, and your breath is life. Your breath is everything. Just please remember this during your trip. When you're experiencing a really hallucinogenic, psychedelic, trippy trip, your breath is the only thing that makes sense sometimes. Like, you'll realize it might feel like your breath is the only thing here with you. Your breath. So remember that your breath will bring you back. Take slow breaths and it will help you just stay like grounded and centered and not freak out. Another thing that I want to add very quickly, this is a tip that I still do to this day, is to write down a note for yourself. Especially if you're tripping alone, although I highly recommend that you don't do that if it's your first time especially, but is to write down like, hey, you took shrooms. Remember, time is not real, but time will pass. This is literally what I write down. You are love. That's literally what it feels like. I remember being in this trip where I was just tripping. I was having the worst trip of my life, and my friend pointed out the clock and she's like, look, like time, it doesn't feel real because it's not real, but that time is going to continue. That clock is going to continue. And before you know it, this trip will end. But just know that time, as we're speaking right now, it's moving. Time will pass by. You are love. The reason for this is you never know when you need that reminder when you're on your trip. Those are my tips for you. I really hope that this video was helpful. Again, please make sure to subscribe if you enjoy this type of content. Stay blessed, stay trippy, stay beautiful. Peace.